wonderful talks that were just given. And it nicely led up to the topic that we are going to discuss today on affordable housing, regulations around that, and whether the industry is ready for affordable housing, and how should all of us consider our business models in the affordable housing space. So that's really the topic that we have today, and there's an eminent panel out here, and I have the easy task of just asking questions. So let me start off by by asking one of the, and Mr. Razack is here, Mr. Sharma ji is here, I can ask the question straight up. On what do you think, sir, is affordable housing? So the government today is and rightfully so possibly, where there's no other measure that can be easily applied, is looking at square footage as affordable housing. But the thought process is for the economically weaker sections of society. So what is affordable housing today? Because in Bangalore, if you allow close to 1,000 square feet, it may not be affordable to all. So how does a developer look at affordable housing? How would you look at a project of affordable housing and to see the end objective, right? We have to build and sell to the right people.
Thank you, Mr. Chandy. I think it's a great question, and that always comes with question marks. What is affordable? How do you define affordable? Of course, I'm very happy that of late, last year or so, the government has defined affordable housing. They've defined it in the metro cities like Mumbai and New Delhi and other places as 40 square meter house. And for the other cities like Bangalore and other 60 square meters. And they say with this definition, if a developer is constructing homes, they are entitled, the buyer is entitled to a subsidy on interest. The developer is entitled to a tax break like a income tax benefit. But the thing is, the entire project should be of that size. The other parameters like the site area should be not less than 1,000 square meters, which is a no-brainer. And the approval date should be 2019 March, if that's the thing, not later than that. So the whole crux of the whole idea is to see that smaller homes are built. But then again, the affordability stuff still remains a question mark, because what is affordable to you may not be affordable to me, and what is affordable to somebody else can't be affordable to someone else. And real estate being real estate, believe you me, in my career, I've sold homes for 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs for the people who are from the other countries, 500,000 rupees. When you talk about 500,000 rupees in today's dollar terms, it will be $8,000. A 2-bedroom house. Can you get a home for $8,000 anywhere in the world? And that was not too long ago. It was 20 years plus ago. Or 20, maybe 30 years ago. That's how the value keeps changing. So affordability is something that really you can't expect. But then I'm glad that the government now has defined it by the area of the home rather than the price, because the price keeps changing. Inflation keeps catching on. The buying power of people keeps increasing because of more and more jobs that are created. But one thing that I keep telling our developer fraternity, and I also tell the realtor fraternity, is affordable doesn't mean substandard. Affordable doesn't mean inferior quality. Affordable doesn't mean something that you need to produce cheap and sell cheap. Affordable just means that you need to get the product right, get the basic right, create the same environment that you would like to give to a luxury housing. Today, Prestige Group is developing many large townships where we've got such size homes. But what do? We create the environment. We bring in a lot of open space, a lot of landscape, a lot of amenities. That I believe, that's why when I spoke earlier in my speech, it's the monetary aspect of doing work. Does that drive you, or is it just the thrill of doing work? So for us, it's the thrill of doing work that drives us. Of course, profits and monetary stuff is a byproduct of the work that we do. But what we do is we create spaces for people to live where generations can get born and a different sort of thought process emerges. Move people away from those unsanitary conditions, bring them into sanitary conditions. This is very appropriate in our Indian context. Give them the environment where young brains can flourish and become creative, and they become super citizens of the country. That is my definition of affordable.
So wonderful topics touched upon by Mr. Razack on the fact that affordable housing needs to be integrated with the rest of the housing project. The people who buy affordable housing also look for amenities. There is a growing expectation that affordable housing should have a semblance of amenities, if not all the amenities that a top-end project would get. But housed within, it not only smooths over some social barriers, it also lifts people up. So with that, if I were to ask, either Vinod or Sharma ji here, on as a developer, would you take on only an affordable housing project? And I'm asking this from the perspective of, if you look at only affordable housing as a project self-contained, you may not be able to do it in city center or in close concentric circles to city center. So how do you evaluate a project, and how do you consider affordable housing here?
Thank you, Chandy. I think the first thing that one must understand is the last 3 years has brought in a new kind of economy. As we look at business, we call it the expectation economy. The new customer is very particular about 3 things. Quality, like he rightly said, and uncompromising quality. Somebody is expecting an airbag in a 10 lakh car in India, which was unheard of some time back. Then they are looking at a home as a personal expression. So the phone that they carry, the brand of shoe that they may select, all of this has to largely fit into the home that they are buying. It's an aspirational product. So the new expectation economy puts severe pressure on a developer in designing a product. So largely we have become commoditized. You have to plan a product, build it to a price point. There are a lot of soaps which you can take advantage of under the PMAY scheme, etc. But customer in the middle and everything around it. So that's the way I think the new formats will roll out.
Right. And, at the same time, and while we say it is good to have an integrated project, do you see conflicts building when you have a corner of the building that is not accessible to the rest of the project? When you say swimming pools or gym houses segregated, Sobha Developers has been one of the largest in South India and outside, and you have multiple luxury projects. How would you look at it, Sharma ji?
See, as far as affordable housing is concerned, we started Bangalore's largest ever project till date, 7,000 units, 6,945, all 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom apartments in a location which was surrounded by the IT companies. And the idea behind that was that walk to work sort of a thing, if you can create, you will be able to make these customers buy home little bit early in their phase. And we also recognized that these new buyers now, they are not going to buy a home as their lifetime investment. They are going to buy a home to ensure that the money what they would have otherwise paid by way of rentals, if that can be converted into owning an asset, they must look at that option. And that is why today in that affordable housing segment, we find almost 2/3 of our people who are buying, they are within the age group of 21 to 35. And this is what could be made possible because affordable housing as a concept could be created in the mind of these buyers who would not have purchased. And you are giving them, as Irfan Bhai was telling, good luxury, good quality. There are 5 clubhouses, there are 5 swimming pools. The clubhouses range between 35,000 to 60,000 square feet. And all possible amenities what you cannot get in a luxury home, you are providing. And now post the government scheme of this affordable housing, we are launching exclusively these products which will qualify, where we can pass on the GST benefit to customer, we can allow them to have some interest subvention scheme, and at the same time we can also enjoy the income tax benefit. But what I would request on this platform to you people, you represent those customers. Today, your focus has to be that earlier if you could have targeted 1x customer, with the launch of this affordable housing scheme, probably you can target 10x customers. And in order to target those 10x customers, you need to change the methods what you used to follow in the past. And that is where the technology should be playing an important role to guide them, to teach them that buying a home today is a necessity. Buying a home today is creating a future asset. Buying a home is developing a savings habit. Buying a home is to ensure, like again I am giving the example of the China. If the boy does not have a home of his own, the girl's family would not like to give the girl to that boy. So that kind of a messaging, if from this platform, I would urge these NAR realtors, if they can create, India will have a great future to provide these kind of homes where the demographic dividend really we can talk, and within that the co-living space and all such things will also fall in place. But this is one concept where the government is aligned with the developers as well as with the customers. And you as the platform, my request would be to ensure that you capitalize and nudge. And while nudging, when you're talking to the customer, it's at the infancy stage, give us the inputs, what we should be incorporating, what we should not be incorporating. Say for example, whether the community kitchen, whether we should be providing in our new projects or not, how it is going to succeed, who is going to run it. All these things, it is good that via you, we get that filtered information, which in my view should help this affordable housing take a much deeper route and ensure that the benefit of that is shared by all of us.
You know, that throws up an interesting point on today, what Sharma ji said, we need to look at this differently. So as developers sit down to plan their projects, they are all used to, if I may, 5, 10 formats of how to build projects, how to build out residential units. They have a fixed supply chain. They know where to get what, how to get it. The supply lines are smooth. So in an affordable housing space, does one need to look at differential concepts, new technology, new building materials, new supply chain? Is it really a completely different business that needs a very specific and special focus? So Gopal, if I may ask you.
Thank you. I think first we have to differentiate between affordable and LIG. So I think the product which most of the developers are building in the range of less than 15 lakh, I think that we have to classify as a LIG. Because nobody dreams a house less than 200 square feet. Means we have to also think from the livability point of view. So anything in between 350 to 650 sort of carpet is a right mix for the affordable, which is a livable project. Because from a customer's point of view, if we ask anyone, I don't think anyone will say, I have dream home of 200 square feet. That is the foremost thing. Yes, I do agree from an affordable perspective, developer have to have a complete different mindset, because affordable is a game of speed, is a game of execution, is a game of standardization is a game of repetition. So one has to have a different mindset wherein they cannot sit for multiple times in the project duration. So they have to be very, very clear in terms of their design brief. They have to be very, very clear in terms of their standardization in terms of specs, product. As Mr. Irfan has also said, affordable doesn't mean an inferior quality product. One has to give a quality product with all basic infrastructure. See, now most of the developers or probably the realtors, they feel affordable means if we are launching some project at 2500 or 2800, that's affordable. If you go 25 kilometer behind the suburb areas of the city, I don't think the sales will come. For an affordable project, basic infrastructure is very, very important. Road, electricity, water, and transportation and daily needs things. So one has to focus that the basic infrastructure is ready, then you are giving the lifestyle amenities, quality product, and if you have a mindset of a manufacturer, a service provider, if that mindset is there and you can go for that kind of speed, I think that's a fantastic business model. One can enjoy better ROC, IRR from a developer's perspective. And if you see the flavor of the market, I think affordable, we are delivering huge volumes, means we have not seen such kind of volumes in last 2 decades. So if you go sub 50 lakh product, recently also we have launched one project in Pune where in 40 days we have sold 600 apartment. So the volume is tremendous, the demand is tremendous, and still we have to cater that kind of 20 million desire which government has set. Also from a customer's point of view, PMAY provisions are there, CLSS benefits are there, straight away they are getting 5% benefit from the government. We being a developer, we have the minimum alternative tax, like just 17-18% tax is what we have to pay. So, and infrastructure status, so when you are borrowing money also from the working capital cycle management, your financial closure, so I think you are getting at a cheaper rate. So this is a phenomenal business model, but one has to have a system, processes, as Mr. J.C. Sharma has also added in terms of technology. Because when you want to cater this kind of volume, I think you cannot have too much of dependency on human. You have to set the processes, you have to use the technologies to deliver the larger volume. And it's going to be a phenomenal growth story in India for next, I'll suggest minimum 5 to 10 years. And one has to have a complete focus on affordable as one of the vertical. I am not saying that affordable is only the demand which we have to cater. Obviously, MIG and HIG luxury is also there. So a blend of portfolio, a mixed portfolio, so 50% focus is on affordable, 35% on MIG, and 15% on 24K. I think that kind of focus a big brand should have, and affordable is going to be a next growth story wherein people will see the historical records which developer will create in coming years. So I think this is what, in a nutshell, I'll say infrastructure, design, reputation, processes, and a manufacturing setup mindset to deliver larger volume with a quality product and good communication for the masses is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopal. And as you said, India is poised for a big growth in this sector. I would like to ask Mr. Mahmood. He has global experience. He's interacted with realtors all across. How does the global fraternity, and there are multiple countries, and we know of the UK, we know of places in the US, in Ireland, where affordable housing, housing for all, is a theme for the government. So how do you see the fraternity of realtors reacting to this? How have they reacted to this overseas, and how do you see this coming to India?
Thank you, Mr. Chandy. I think affordable, as was explained, in different regions of the world means different things. If you're looking at Monaco, an affordable house costs about 2 million euros, about close to about 16 crores. If you're looking at Singapore, it's $1 million. But the best example that I've seen closest to India is in Colombia and in Cartagena. It's a fabulous example. The living conditions are more or less like India, being a third world country from that perspective. They have similar problems. They have budget constraints. And from that perspective, I see that they've done a wonderful job building these social housing or affordable housing, which costs about anywhere between 10 to 20,000 US dollars. The best thing about these homes that I liked was the entire gated community had all the amenities that one would have in a five-star facility in India. It had pools, it had tennis courts, but the most important thing was these people were brought out from the slums, the ghettos. They had a training program on how to live in these homes. These homes were small, one bedroom, 400 to 500 square feet. They had a basic price which a shell was given to them, and they could upgrade it the way they wanted it depending on how much money they had over a period of time. Bankers would loan them money to do the interiors. But the most important thing was I never saw a single shirt or a pant or an underwear or thing hanging out of the windows. They were taught on how to live, how to use common amenities, how not to put plastic into toilets, clog systems. This is a fantastic learning experience. Just about 3 weeks ago, I was there in Cartagena, and I think India should learn from this module. I have a couple of videos and a couple of pictures on how they do it. And the best part is, there's a 20-acre plot where 10 developers offer their show flats. You go there and say developer A, B, C, D, showing their show flats. What is the basic flat? What is the upgraded flat that looks like with kitchen cabinets, with furniture? If you don't have a budget for anything, take the basic flat, move into it, upgrade it. Or there's a bank sitting down there in this sales office where it sanctions you an immediate loan, gets this job done in 30 days to 45 days time. You're ready to move into it. There's play area for kids, there's schools there, there's a police station, there's a hospital, and it's all between $10,000 to $20,000. I mean, this is a learning experience. I think India should emulate from this. Talking about the West, their standards are different, but this, I would say, is one of the best places that I've seen, and I would like to share this video maybe at a later point in time. Thank you.
At affordable housing, if you club it with the low-income groups, there is immense demand, but affordable housing should not be at the cost of facilities and everything else. So with that, let me ask Mr. Varma, how do you think the realtors in India, because this is not a market you may be necessarily used to, the affordable housing, it's a newer concept. How would you get your supply lines checked and ready to address this market? Does it mean a lot more conversations? Does it mean less conversation? Does it mean a lot more integration and partnerships? How would you advise the realtor community?
Actually, there are two sets of opportunities that are opening up with this affordable housing. First and foremost, one must recognize that there's a supply and demand gap of almost 20 million in the housing space in the country. Affordable housing can become affordable only if the land prices are affordable, because that is the major component in the costing of any housing. So that's an opportunity, because what government has done in many states is made land available, plenty of land available, and therefore the prices have softened. So that gives a realtor an opportunity to sell land, provided they have knowledge of the peripheries of the cities. Because all the things, we are talking about selling lifestyle at an affordable cost or at an affordable price. That is one area of opportunity. The other is when price is so low, what one can do is take entire projects or part projects to sell collectively. Since the price is low, the effort and the marketing cycle of selling such a product is also shorter. Because as the price increases, the level of effort required to sell and the lead times in decision making also increase. So therefore, this is an easy product to sell and it can be done as a mass sale product. And last but not the least, when a person is looking at an affordable home, is also looking to save professional fees of a realtor. Therefore, what one must do is to make deals with realtors that we are representing you. Make an appropriate commercial deal with the manufacturer and then go out representing the manufacturer. You know? So the client feels that you're an extension of the manufacturer and not another expense account or another expense head. So that's another way of going about this. And I see it as a huge opportunity, easier to sell. Developers are also creating templates to see that realtors are motivated to sell this product because their CRMs are such that once you log in, you're on, your fees are assured. So the game is changing at all levels. And it's good for the industry that affordable housing is.
So as Mr. Varma mentioned, the intertwining of the realtors and the developers will be even stronger in the affordable housing space, given the size of the project, the need for speed to develop and sell, the size of the commission potentially out there may not be what people are used to. So that brings us to an interesting question on, is a public-private participation also a way to be considered? Now, the government has done a lot on giving tax SOPs, as Mr. Razack mentioned, on income tax, on GST, on rebates for home buyers. But, you know, what is really, what is the ask and the need of the hour is really land being opened up and infrastructure connection to those pieces of land. So is there a private-public participation, and multiple models have been evaluated and considered across the world. But is there a public-private participation that can be thought of for the affordable housing space? So again, I would ask Mr. Razack if he has a point of view.
Mr. Chandy, one thing that we need to keep away is the government. Because the moment you bring in government into affordable housing, I think it becomes a different game altogether, then it won't work. Having said that, you know what inspired me and what I visited somebody when I was in Singapore maybe about 10 years ago. I went into one of these HDB built houses. We do also have houses built by our local bodies, by the government, but then unfortunately, what happens is they start leaking, all sorts of other problems happen, and nobody really wants to live in them. But I went to Singapore and I saw these HDB houses. They've got the best of the quality, best of the living conditions, and I told, like I mentioned in my earlier, when I interacted with you, was it had the entire environment, it had the landscape, it had the facilities, it had the amenities. And these were supposed to be affordable homes, smaller sizes, and where all the people, in fact, Singapore citizens could buy in there. People who didn't have that much of earning power. They used to buy these small houses, stay there, live there. There used to be people, working people, small business people. And what Singapore did is they changed the entire scenario from slums and ghettos to great living conditions. Once that happened, like Farook's thing about Colombia, he told us, what you really need to do is by creating this housing, is you need to change people's mindset, the way they think, the way they grow up, the way they live, because generations grow up in these things. And then the last thing that I would like to have is any public-private partnership. I think the private sector definitely has the wherewithal to do whatever it is. And as like today in the IT sector, why is the IT sector so successful in India? Because it didn't need anybody's permission. This came from the air. The communication happened through networking. So they didn't need the government support at all for anything at all, except for the infrastructure that's required for people to commute to work. So similarly, I would say that wherever this sort of an initiative is there, less government and less governance will definitely help, and maybe faster approvals and other things will definitely help in creating affordable homes. But one more thing, last word that I would like to again share with you is, the world is changing. We need, as realtors, you need to adopt technology if you need to sell in volumes. We as developers also need to adopt technology to see how we can use that technology to make our product more efficient, better. Like my friend here talked about the concept of having a mindset of manufacturing these homes. If this combination happens, because technology is there for us to use, and technology is going to change everything. And if we don't do that, we'll be left behind. We'll be left behind because physical contact, the physical interaction is the last mile. Now today, you can sit anywhere in the world, Google anything about any product or any person. If I want to know somebody's age, I can just go and Google, I can find it. So that's how technology is. And if we don't start creating those platforms where you can start communicating to your customers, start giving the information to your customers. A lot of property agents have set up these portals, and they have been actually highly successful in doing mass sales rather than the one-to-one contact. But of course, there is a human connect that is required, but that's the last mile. Now, the first mile, the initiation, happens through technology today rather than in the olden days where you needed to physically go to a realtor to know what is happening. Now, no need to do that. Similarly, from our side as developers, we need to see that we use technology, A, for producing and B, for communicating. If this happens, our costs also can come down, the communication becomes better, and then today, again, the volume game is the biggest game. Luxury is there, it's the niche market. Okay, one of you may say, listen, I don't want to get into this game of having multiple customers, servicing them. I'd rather do one deal in a year and then celebrate in the Bahamas. That's your mindset, that's separate. But if you want to be in the business, if you want to be a successful realtor, you want to do the volume game, you need to use the technology and you need to do those volumes. And I think it's a great game to play.
Understood. Sharmaji, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I agree with whatever Irfan Bhai has said. Basically, as far as the public-private partnership is concerned, the partnership has to be offline in ensuring that some changes, if they are required on the land-related laws, on the construction permit-related laws, or in providing the infrastructure, they must be supportive. Or if you look at, specific to your question, the Amravati comes as a right example, how the Chief Minister there is ensuring kind of a public-private partnership where Larsen Toubro, Shapurji Palanji, they are participating in the development of that particular city. Or we can give the example of the gift city also, where Irfan Bhai is already there, I am there, Brigade is there, where we believe that land you can buy without any problem, clear title, infrastructure is available world class, and there we need to play our role as a developer. So going forward, if these kind of things happen, it's good. Otherwise, in India's democratic system, I have a feeling that anything you do where the government is also an equal partner or somewhere government has some kind of a direct or indirect control, it will become difficult because you are giving an asset to a customer who is going to own it for infinity. And from his perspective, we need to see that under no circumstances this kind of a partnership makes that product substandard or becomes unviable from any regions.
Understood. One of the last questions that I have is, given the mindset of all of us, and particularly of the affordable housing buyers, where they are loath to see projects not completed, so they are risk averse on all of that. Do you see a consolidation in the market where a handful of trusted developers who people can rely on to deliver quality at the right time? Do you think there will be a significant consolidation in this space for developers, and developers who then use technology, who then use new materials, to build out the affordable housing space? Because that is what India needs. There's a significant push, and I won't be surprised if the government comes up with more regulations requiring people to do affordable housing. So do you see consolidation, Vinod? Do you see that as a happening?
No, I think already the highway is getting clear. A couple of years ago, if we had a similar panel, we would have had at least top 10 developers, and then we had tier 2, we had another 50, we had in tier 3, all active and extremely well delivered projects, etc. We had another 100. If you take a Bangalore example, which perhaps to my numbers, it's about $7-8 billion annual number. The highway is completely clear. There are top 5 developers, then there are maybe 3 tier 2, and tier 3 is maybe in the suburbs, and phenomenal amount of undelivered stocks. I'll just take a mild digression from the topic. There's been phenomenal fear that is created in a customer's mind, which is where I think realtors also need to go out and educate. Reports after reports are getting published, which says that there are 100,000 units unsold in a market like Bangalore. What somebody misses is they are actually counting old ambassador cars as cars on the street. They're gone, they're finished. Nobody wants to buy an ambassador. You take, they are all heritage collectors' items. The new products, which are ongoing assets, which many of the panelists are successfully delivering, is where customers are coming. So if you try to stay extremely nimble, highly focused, now, I'm not such a big fan of investing into huge technology, because the business is only 7-8% margin business. It will just drag you down and take you out. Unless you have the wherewithal, the privilege, and the track record of people like Prestige and Sobha, another participant will simply be unable to afford those kind of luxury. So my sense is that PMAY, the affordable, is an overdone story. The classic number is just look at the last half-yearly report of HDFC. They, to my mind, control about 25% of the mortgage market. They have refunded 44,000 PMAY cases in the whole of India from 2016. So that tells you the story. 44,000 is perhaps a great case. Bangalore, the whole of Karnataka in the last 2 years, 1,800 units, they have given you PMAY benefit. So it's a whole misdirected story, great for developers because it gives you some tax break, but please don't drive customers into a direction which is not a sustainable story. Please educate the customers to look at assets which will go into completion. Please educate customers to apply their minds to make sure that they're transacting with partners whom they can trust. And you have a bevy of partners sitting here, and I'm privileged to be part of it as a young aspiring participant in the market. That's where the difference should be. Affordable housing, it is always affordable, which people will buy. And in every category, be it MIG 1, MIG 2, or the economically weaker section, there is always people who are catering to that sector. The key is the policy framework was fantastic, but unfortunately the intent got diluted somewhere else with I think I need to borrow from my fellow Malayali polymath Shashi Tharoor. The unending farrago of changes that they have made with the regulation. All of us have to be everyday reading. I was just listening to Sharmaji's speech earlier. he quoted 3 times, save and accept. This is lawyer speech. All of us are sitting with some 7 law books, right from, Binami Act, GST Act, Enemy Territory Act, etc., to do a simple transaction of real estate. I am here to build homes for customers who are intending to transact with me in a simple, transparent way. Why don't we send the right signals rather than creating fear? Fear mongering will keep customers simply away from the market. All of you great participants in the market have the ability to bring them over to each of our project and able to close transactions. That's where I think the escape velocity will come for the sector.
Any comments, Gopal, you want to make?
I think your question was more on the consolidation side, I think, if I'm not wrong. And I think, see, consolidation is going to happen because the reason being very, very simple. Those small-time developers or land aggregators who are holding a big land parcels, earlier there was a lot of motivation to hold because the prices were going up, either a selling price or a land price. Now, since now all over India level, the market is of more of a volume game, and when the prices are not going up, they are motivated to get the land into the production. So the only way to have a land monetization is to bring the land into production, and the development is the only way to recognize your cash flows. And when they plan any kind of business plan on 25, 40 acre land parcels, I don't think they'll think about selling with the volume what a small time developer have a volume of 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh on a yearly basis. He cannot plan 15, 20 year business plan. So he don't have any choice, and he knows the performance, what the big brands are doing. So all of us, like the Bangalore guys, Pune guys, or probably the Mumbai guys who are dealing with bigger volumes. So we can curtail the time. So suppose the small time developer who can complete the project in 15 years, the same volume and the same project can be delivered in 6-7 years by the big time developer. So there is a time value of money, and he don't mind sharing those profits with the big time developers. The kind of compliance setup we require nowadays under RERA, GST, even that kind of bandwidth, that kind of potential is not there in the organizations. So bigger land parcel, yes, of course, gonna be a game of only big time developers. A small time developers will focus on 4 acres, 8 acre, 10 acre. Anything more than 25, 50 acre land parcels, which can come under a township or affordable development or a lifestyle layouts, which obviously be a game of long-term developers, a branded developers, a volume-based developer, and that's where the consolidation phase you can see. Having said that, for their presence being a developer, few projects they want to do their own, so that would be of a smaller size projects. So bigger size, I see a lot of consolidation is going to happen, and we being a big time developers, I think we are not also going up buying 50 acre, 100 acre land on an outright basis, because we have understood that we require 3 year, 3.5 year inventory, and for that we are ready to pay the land prices. There is no point paying the land cost on phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, which we require 3rd to 6th year, 6th to 10th year. So that way straight away the inventory carrying cost will kill our profits. So the only way is having a joint venture, a consolidation, which will be a win-win formula from a big time developer and from a land perspective. And I think this consolidation in a bigger land parcels is going to be happen, and market will deliver a bigger volumes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopal. So I think with that, the messages from the panelists, and they are very senior industry players from both sides, the developers and the realtors. The messages are clear. Affordable housing is here to stay. It's a social need of the country. It is going to be either developed by developers or by government, but it is here to stay. Developers are, and all the big developers are looking at affordable housing, given the velocity of the sales, much greater than the high-end products. They are looking at technology. They are conscious of the need to turn things over. They are conscious of, and the industry will be conscious of the ethical environment here, because the people who are buying affordable housing can't really wait for 10 years to get things ready. So I'm sure the ethical players will have a much greater play, much greater brand recall. At the same time, realtors, as we heard, there is technology to be implemented. there is a way for realtors to work together with developers, to be part of the developer fraternity, because while individual sales may be small, in groups of sales they may be quite large. From the government, I think the government side, they've done, gotten a regulator, given the tax breaks that could be afforded. The ask really from all sides is infrastructure and opening up of land parcels.